Story 1. My best friend had pit row passes to the Formula One Molson Indy race in Toronto. He asked me to go and I was excited. In the days leading up to the weekend, I was bumped for some girl he was dating. They have been married for 25 years now, so I guess it was worth it. I still have never been to pit row. Story 2. My best friend kept dating awful guys from high school into college. She had been with one guy for nearly 6 months, and he was finding every excuse to skip plans with her. She found evidence he was cheating multiple times. It was tearing her apart, but she did not want to lose him. On their 6-month anniversary, he stood her up again. She called me crying and asked me to come over. I lied, saying I had to run an errand first but would be there in a few hours. Instead, I messaged him, telling him to stop this behavior and break up with her already because she would not do it. He confessed he was scared she would become suicidal, which was a valid worry. She often told him he was the only reason she was still alive. I told him this was worse, that stringing her along was torture. I said that when it was over, he could leave and I would be there to help her. He broke up with her a few minutes later via text, then blocked her. She called again. I acted slightly shocked and dropped everything to go to her. She did fall into a suicidal state, but she is still alive, and her life improved immensely after that. We are no longer friends because she nearly got me fired last year, but I do wish her well. Story 3. My first love's best friend told me he was cheating. He held back a bit too long but collected evidence in case I didn't believe him and told me. It was not a ruse to try to date me instead. About 20 years later, we are still friends. I gained a true friend from that relationship. I don't think I could have broken free of my feelings without his help. His friendship with my ex was never the same. He broke serious bro code by being a stand-up guy. Story 4. My best friend in high school was suicidal during our early college years. I had been on the phone with him until 2 a.m. more nights than I can count, but it did not seem to be helping. Eventually, I called his parents. He was placed on a suicide watch and was not happy about it, but I think it was the right choice at the time. I felt selfish because I was getting tired of these phone calls, and I totally betrayed his trust. His relationship with his parents was complicated as well. I was just a college sophomore at my wit's end, and it seemed like the only way to help him. I spoke to him 3 years later, and his life seemed to be going better. Story 5. I remember going on a date with an attractive friend of a friend. I was at the restaurant, and she was about 45 minutes late. She sent texts saying she was having trouble finding the restaurant. When she arrived, the date was SOSO, but I was considering more. My friend said, "I feel awful breaking the girl code here," but she didn't have trouble finding the restaurant. She was texting me too, deciding what to wear, relaxing, and generally keeping you waiting on purpose just to show she could. It was a little game. I wasn't horrified, but I was a little hurt, and there was no second date. I think my friend helped me dodge a bullet, and I appreciate that it was hard for her to make that call. I have always appreciated that. Story 6. I simultaneously upheld brother code and broke girl code. I had just started dating my now wife, and her roommate was not particularly stable. She was going on dates with one guy who was head over heels for her, but she was stringing him along for free meals and attention. Her actual feelings were toward another guy. One night, the first guy came over to the apartment with flowers because they were supposed to go on a date. The roommate was sobbing over the second guy, who would not give her the time of day. My girlfriend was in the living room trying to console her, and the first guy ended up with me in my girlfriend's bedroom. He asked what he should do, and having known what the roommate was like and recently gotten out of an abusive relationship myself, I said, "Honestly, brother, run." He was clearly spooked and made an excuse, left as soon as possible, and I never heard from him again. Where I messed up was potentially putting my girlfriend in harm's way because if the roommate had found out I told the first guy to run, my girlfriend would have been in a world of pain. I would have as well by proxy, but I did not have to live with the roommate. Overall, I do not regret my decision, but I could have handled it better. Even though my girlfriend was a little mad at me at the time, she understood where I was coming from and still agreed to marry me later. Story 7. I am friends with several of my best friend's former girlfriends. He dated really intelligent, cool women. At one point, he pointed out that I was spending more time with his former girlfriends than with him, but I explained that his former girlfriends called me to hang out, which he never did. Story 8. Before my wife and I got together, she had dated one of my former roommates who was also a longtime friend. One day, she and I were hanging out with a third mutual friend, and it came up that he had been telling all of us they were on a break. She went ballistic on him over it. We did not develop chemistry until weeks later, but he saw it as a betrayal regardless. We have been married a couple of years now with a child. No regrets. Story 9. Dating a close friend's ex, with full honesty and everyone's consent. Sounds like a disaster waiting to happen. However, sometimes it works out when people communicate like adults and no one feels betrayed. Story 10. I used to have a friend who was hung up on an ex. At first, we bonded over our shared experiences, as I also had a relationship that ended and made me upset. I moved on, settled down, and was just going through life. My friend did not, but I tried to listen whenever he brought up the ex. It took me some time to realize it was a relationship he had back in high school that lasted for only a month. I had assumed it was an ex from our 20s. I had enough and started shutting him down every time he brought up the topic. He liked me a lot less after that, but I feel like I am helping him move on from something that happened more than 20 years ago. Story 11. A friend of mine was always trying to cheat on his girlfriend, who I was also friends with. I stayed quiet for too long, even though it didn't sit right with me. Then, one day, he asked to borrow money to take some girl out on a date. I told him he'd have to get his girlfriend to text me and say she was okay with his date. Shockingly, he actually tried to make that happen. He told her it was just a group hangout, but she already had a feeling he was up to something. She called me and asked if it was a group thing or a date. I told her the truth. She ended the relationship. About a week later, she texted me something like, "I've decided that you're going to love me. I think you're already close, but it's going to happen. We've been married for 14 years now. She's still my best friend. She's an amazing person, inside and out. Every day I get to watch our daughter grow into an incredible woman, and I couldn't be happier with the family we have." Story 12. One of my friends is a notorious cheater. He got a new girlfriend who genuinely loved him, was cute, and a good person. I accidentally made a mistake that revealed he was cheating on her. He talked her into staying, so I called her and told her about his other girlfriend to make sure she understood he was not going to stop cheating. She left him for real and thanked me. Story 13. I told my friend's husband that she was cheating and using drugs with the person she was having an affair with. She had also started to act very differently. He confronted her, and although they faced difficult times, it turned out she was actually manic and got help. They are still together, but no one talks about it. Story 14. I reported my boss because I found out he was sexually harassing our receptionist, and it had been going on for years. The business partners dissolved, and I was laid off a year later due to the decline caused by the loss of clients. The business closed shortly after. Our receptionist is a great person and did not deserve any of that. No regrets, though. The person I reported had been a mentor and a friend, but I realized we are very different people. The boss had a breakdown afterward, divorced, sold his house, became a bitter and hateful conservative, and then moved to Thailand. What a creep. Story 15. I do not know if this is in the code or not, but I am friends with my ex, and his wife is now my best friend. My husband is good friends with my ex. We are all friends because my ex and I are friends. After we broke up, having been together for 5 years, we did not talk and did not necessarily get along. After a couple of years, we started being friends because we ran in the same groups and basically grew up together. I do not know why people think it is so weird. Story 16. 4 girls went out. I was the designated driver. One girl spent most of the evening complaining at length about the guy she was dating. It dominated the conversation, and frankly, he sounded like a jerk. We got to the third venue of the night. The girls were all pretty buzzed and having a good time, but her boyfriend was there. She had gotten progressively drunk and decided to lock herself in the ladies' room and have a meltdown. The guy stepped in and said he really needed to take her home. According to girl code, she came with us, she was inebriated, so she goes home with us. I thought this guy was going to punch me. I tried to block the door, but he forced it open, pinning me to the side. He asked, "Do you want to go with them or me?" She replied, "You." I threw up my hands and walked away. How it ended up for the better. I wasn't part of the friend group when she became an even more toxic train wreck and dragged everyone else down. There are people who still don't talk to each other 20 years later because of her. Story 17. In college, one of my friends was dating a girl for a few years. At one point, I dated her best friend for about 6 months. A few months after my friend broke up with her, she asked me out. My friend said he was okay with it, but about a month into dating her, I realized he was not. The girl had asked her best friend if it was okay. Her response was, "Thank God. Everyone else knows you two are meant for each other. And now you are finally figuring it out. We have 2 beautiful daughters and will celebrate 22 years of marriage later this year." The best friend was the matron of honor at our wedding, and we are still friends with her and her husband. The guy friend, not so much. He was worth it. Story 18. Best friend of 12 years betrayed my girlfriend. I never noticed how toxic both of them were to me until afterward. Story 19. Telling a friend their partner was cheating, even if it hurt at first, saved them from worse consequences later. Story 20. Marry the girl all of my friends slept with. And I mean everyone slept with her. We ended up hitting it off and one thing led to another and I married her. Story 21. I was dating a girl casually who had a friend recently divorced. She asked if I could take her out with us to a fetish club. My girlfriend had to cancel because she couldn't get a sitter, but as an adult, it didn't seem right to cancel on her friend and go alone. So I drove down and picked her up. We had a great time. Chemistry happened quickly, and we started spending a lot of time together. Reluctantly, I told the girl I had been dating that things were starting to get serious with her friend. She was very understanding. I was just honest about the situation. Fast forward 3 years, the girl I was dating got serious with a really nice woman and married her. Now their child has a 2-parent household. The girl I picked up and took out clubbing has been my partner for nearly 12 years. Story 22. A coworker and I had a mutual crush on another coworker. I was really close with her and he was not. He was not confident enough to ask her out despite my encouragement, and I have a strict self-imposed policy not to date coworkers. So I asked her out and she declined. We still hung out afterward, and I found out she was starting to have a crush on him but was not confident enough to start anything, despite her friends encouraging her. I spoke negatively about him to her, which led them to start talking. They both were fired for unrelated reasons and do not really like me, but they are getting married in a few months and have much better jobs, so it all worked out. Story 23. I was in a friend group with 3 other girls. We had all been victims of the larger friend group breaking apart, mainly because the girl whose trailer we often hung out in moved to Southern California. Let's call her Leah. One of the girls, Sammy, was obsessed with Leah and how she was the so-called leader of the old friend group. Leah's ex-boyfriend Trevor started dating a girl named Megan. Sammy made it a point to be very friendly to Megan and had everyone convinced they were best friends. They would text and hang out all the time. Megan told Sammy that she didn't trust Trevor, but Sammy convinced her it was all in her head and that he was actually a really great guy. Megan expressed how lonely she felt but was glad to have a trusted friend like Sammy to confide in. How do I know all the intimate details of their conversations? Sammy was secretly involved with Trevor and sent us screenshots of her text conversations with Megan, making fun of her for being gullible and naive. It was cruel high school behavior. I told Sammy she needed to tell Megan what was happening, or I would. No one in the group believed I would do it. The other girls didn't see a problem since Sammy was their friend and Megan wasn't, so their loyalty was clear. One night, about a week later, we were at a house party, and Sammy was getting close to Trevor right in front of Megan. Megan came into the kitchen while I was grabbing a snack. Megan and I were not close, but she was clearly upset, so I asked her what was wrong. She said she felt like she was going crazy because her gut told her something was going on between them, but everyone told her she was overreacting and that they were just close friends. I responded, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but everyone is lying to you, and I refuse to be a part of it. I told her everything and even showed her the group chat where Sammy sent us screenshots and tried to tell us what to say if Megan got suspicious. Megan understandably got very upset and left, texting Trevor that she never wanted to see him again. She then blocked everyone's number except mine. I lost that entire friend group that day because I was labeled a traitor. Everyone except Megan, who I still talk to occasionally 7 years later. Story 24. A guy in college didn't return the money he borrowed from me. I asked around to see what he was up to, and it turned out it was drugs. He owed money to more than 20 people. I called his parents with information on the best rehabilitation centers in town. They checked him in. He is still the lousy guy no one wants to hang out with but is doing well otherwise. Story 25. I was dating a friend of my now wife, and we had just gone through a tough breakup. My now wife asked permission to date me, and permission was initially granted until we hit it off. 9 years later, she and I have the American dream. 2 kids, a house, and 2 dogs. It has been great. I am glad she broke the girl code for me. Story 26. I was kind of friends with my significant other's little sister. She would come over and we would drink a little and smoke a little. I told her the first time we hung out that I would never report her unless it was an emergency. Fast forward to later that year. She was going through a bad breakup and called me in the middle of the day from her parents' house. I could tell she was probably drinking or using something else, even though she lied to me that she was not. She suddenly passed out while I was on the phone with her. I called her parents to tell them she had passed out in their house under the influence. She was okay and just passed out drunk, but I was terrified. Story 27. One of my friends lost his best friend when the girl broke up with one and started dating the other immediately. They have been married for more than 30 years. Story 28. My wife recently told me that she and her best friend had a big fight about me in 2004. Her friend said she stole me, which was confusing for me because her friend was a fine person, but my eventual wife was superior in every way. Story 29. I used to work as a bouncer with a man who was an absolute lunatic. We were not friends, but I would say close co-workers. He was legitimately out of his mind. He started dating a girl I knew pretty well. I talked to her and told her to get out. He was completely rage-filled. She did leave, and I was actually relieved. He ended up serving about 7 years for attempted murder, with his mother being the victim. Story 30. Way back in high school, my friend was interested in a girl, but she was not into him and gave off strong, uncomfortable vibes that he wasn't reading properly. To be fair, he wasn't ignoring them, he just wasn't recognizing them. We were all involved in the same extracurricular activity, and at first, I made an effort to be present when they spent downtime together. Eventually, that led me to physically interpose myself because my friend liked to use casual, but appropriate physical contact to show his interest, which clearly made her even more uncomfortable. That girl and I are approaching our 15th wedding anniversary and have been together for almost 25 years. Did I mean to block his romantic interest? Yes, because I felt then and still feel now that it was the right thing to do. Did I do it to try to steal his crush? Absolutely not. I wasn't interested in her at first, and I completely missed the signals that she was into me. I lost touch with that friend during college, but my understanding is he is happily married. So I'd say it all worked out in the end. Story 31. I told one of my best friend's boyfriend that she was cheating on him with my boyfriend. So I guess we both broke girl code. He was heartbroken, but he deserved to know. Story 32. I told the local police department if they saw my friend driving, he was drunk because he was. The police did nothing. He had worked 30 years in the oil field when jobs dried up around 2014. He did some odd jobs, but nothing to match the oil patch. He started drinking heavier and switched from beer to cheap vodka. I had a side gig restoring old houses, so I put him to work at a fair rate doing demolition and rebuild. I was not exploiting him. I was doing the same work. On Fridays, I paid him in cash. 3 weeks in, he did not show up on Monday. He said he was at the doctor, but I could spot the signs of a 3-day bender from a mile away. The next Friday, I paid him and he missed the following Monday. So I left early on Friday and said I would pay him on Monday. He got paid that Monday and missed the rest of the week. I did the work alone with the tradesman. On Friday, I stopped at his place to see how he was doing. He was very intoxicated on cheap vodka. He said he could not keep up and was quitting. I was not mad, but I was concerned. I have known this guy since junior high. I called his daughter and brother several times over the next few weeks so they knew what was happening. They tried getting him into rehabilitation, but he resisted. He was still driving to the liquor store. So I went to the local police department and told them what was happening. They followed him but never pulled him over or took him to jail. They were useless. In the end, his brother finally got an ambulance, and they took him to rehabilitation. He weighed less than 100 pounds at 5 feet 7 inches tall. He is now physically healthy, but his brain is damaged. He remembers 1978 but forgets that my wife died almost 10 years ago and that I have remarried. He wants to know where his dog is. The dog died 3 years ago. When I visit his nursing home, all he wants is for me to take him to a strip club. We did not go to strip clubs before, but apparently he wants to see some women. I understand. I like women too, but I am not bailing him out. Keep an eye on your friends before they hit bottom. Story 33. Kind of a bro code. Never told this story before. My then girlfriend was telling me her best friend's husband was beating her and cheating. I told her to have her friend come visit us for a bit. She did. During that time, I called him and explained in a very blunt manner that if he touches her again, I will end him regardless of the outcome for me. I also told him that while she is gone, he can file the divorce paperwork, be done, and move out. Take what he wants, as I will help her get back on her feet. She stayed with us for a month, and he moved out and filed for a divorce. Neither my girlfriend nor her friend knows I called him. Story 34. My 19-year-old daughter asked me to pick up her girlfriend from a pub on the other side of the city because she was extremely intoxicated and did not know where she was. When I picked her up, she mentioned that a man was giving her pills. She did not know what they were but took them anyway. I was at a loss for words, thinking she had been drugged and harmed. I told her how reckless she was, and she said it was okay because nothing bad had happened. I had to stop the car and told her that I was not sorry, but that I was going to inform her mother that she was getting severely intoxicated, taking unknown pills from strangers, and could not recognize the danger. She never became extremely intoxicated again. Story 35. Around 3rd grade, a friend told me that a family member, not a parent, had been molesting her older sister. The same family member would also lock them in the bathroom while he did this, and then beat my friend and her other sister to keep them quiet. She told me, and I reported it to the teacher and school guidance counselor. My friend was terrified and did not want to tell anyone because she was scared of retaliation. Eventually, authorities, social services, and her parents were notified. The family member fled the country but returned after a short while and was then sent to prison. This was 35 years ago. We are still best friends to this day. I consider her family, and she considers me family. She has thanked me for speaking up for her. Story 36. Happened to me, actually. I had 2 friends, a man and a woman. I moved halfway across the country for the woman since we were in a long-distance relationship. I moved from Los Angeles to St. Louis. A month in, she said she didn't feel any romantic feelings for me, but we remained friends. It was a rough transition for me since I left behind a large, close extended family. Even after the breakup, she rarely wanted to hang out unless our mutual male friend was visiting, in which case she wanted to go out to eat and visit festivals. Since those 2 were the only people I knew and had physical contact with, I developed an unhealthy and needy attachment. I was very jealous when they hung out without me. I pushed to have the male friends stay at my place. It ended up in a friends with benefits situation that was supposed to involve no feelings. I'm not proud of it, but I ended up catching feelings. I told him, and he said he wanted to be with our friend, my ex, instead. He didn't want to tell her we had hooked up at all. I told her instead to uphold girl code, hoping that, in the spirit of such, she would not date the man who had broken my heart. She did. I moved back to California, cut them both off completely, and met a new best friend with whom I have a more fulfilling and healthier relationship. I repaired other friendships that were strained by my dependence on the others. With my new friends, I feel loved and seen, whereas I had to fight for attention with my old ones. I'm much happier with them out of my life. Story 37. I reject the part of the brother code where I am supposed to aid and abet liars and cheaters. I will never need that kind of protection, and I will not provide it for anybody either. Story 38. One friend of mine started dating my ex after we broke up. She was unstable and told me she had cancer when she did not. She tried to guilt trip me into doing things for her, saying she had to go out of town for cancer treatment or doctor visits. I was convinced she truly had cancer. My friend knew about all of this. For me, I kind of lost a friend, but it turned out for the best, I guess. He had a child with her, got divorced, realized he had made a huge mistake decades later, and at least she was no longer bothering me. Story 39. My best friend dated my ex. He and I were lukewarm at best. They were each other's first love. They were better off and I was happy for them. Story 40. I learned that a very close, lifelong friend of mine was using heroin around 2015. He had some issues with irritable bowel syndrome and other pains. He had also recently lost his mother, to whom he was very close. I kept it a secret and told him how much I wanted him to stop for quite a while, but it seemed like he wasn't going to quit. Especially after the recent loss of his mother, I was afraid he would get too deep. He lost a lot of weight. When I called him on the phone, he sounded like he was only halfway there. Slow to respond with slurred words. His wife seemed very unhappy. I don't know if she was convinced to use too, or if she was just upset about his usage. I gave it some time, but he never quit. Then one day, I was drinking with a few friends and called him to say what's up. He sounded very out of it. I could tell he was high, trying to pretend he wasn't. That night, I got the courage to reach out to his family and tell them what was going on, to stage an intervention of sorts. I was fine with him hating me because I just didn't want him to lose his life. I ended up coming down to Houston and being there with his family for the intervention. The look in his eyes when he walked into the house was, "How could you?" This was the friend who was never afraid to say, "Love you, bro," or to give me a hug or reach out to me for whatever. I feel like ever since then, he always had that distant look in his eyes whenever we met up again. He was always closed off and cold to me. He stopped calling or texting me. But I do know he has been clean since then. He got a job he's really happy with, and he and his wife are trying for a child. I know he's in the best place in his life, so I'd say it was for the best. But I won't lie, it hurts me when I send him happy birthday or Merry Christmas texts and don't get a response. Or when I ask if he wants to hang out if I drive down to Houston and get no reply. I was close to his mother too. She reached out to me and helped me a lot because she knew my family home life wasn't great, and I didn't handle her passing well. I'd really like to ask him where her grave is so I can visit by myself, but at this point, I'm too afraid to ask. Story 41. When I was around 14, I met a man in his early 20s at the mall and developed a huge crush on him. He would buy me alcohol and we would flirt. I did not realize I was being groomed at the time. My best friend had a habit of stealing every guy I showed interest in. She insisted on meeting him and they quickly began dating. I was furious and hurt over the whole situation for a while. She eventually became pregnant with his child at 14 years old, and he started abusing her mentally, emotionally, and financially while she was pregnant. He was also cheating on her. She finally got up the courage to leave him at 17. He is still a terrible person to this day and has basically nothing to do with his daughter. Story 42. From my perspective, bro code is largely limited to if your friend dated someone you used to date. Clear violation. But actual bad things, bro code does not exist. In my world, what exists instead is, so are you going to tell her or am I? One time it did get twisted. A friend's longtime girlfriend showed up with a black eye. In our books, that is a hard stop. Never hit a woman. None of us talked to him after that. He got shut out hard. Then one day I saw him and we talked. He showed me the scars from where he got stitches in several places. She tried to kill him with scissors. Literally. Confirmed version, all eventually was good. And that girl was gone. Story 43. I had a former friend in college who had a vicious cycle of dating someone, bringing her around the group and befriending her, then cheating on her. We took turns exposing him to his girlfriends with varying degrees of success. I have more skill than the average man. This guy was well above me and had these women in such a state of delusion. I have never seen anything like it before or since. He has settled down some, but his ex-wife cheated on him, so he got some just desserts. Story 44. In middle school, I confided in my best friend at the time that I wanted to ask out a specific girl. His response was to quickly ask her out right there in front of me, and she said yes immediately. I figured he meant it as a sort of should-have-moved first lesson for me, but I only acted on the lesson by not telling anyone anything like that ever again. They were together all through middle and high school, got married, lived together, all of it. To my preoccupied high school mind, which was dealing with psychological family drama and divorce, I could barely think about dating anyway. About 10 years later, we had barely talked since high school, but he confided in me after the fact that he had just found out she was cheating on him basically the whole time, or more than half the time they were together. He painted an unhappy picture, and it was emotionally complex for me. I felt bad for him for having gone through that, but at the same time, I have to admit it did feel like karma for how annoyingly cute and couple-like they would act in front of me. Story 45. My friend took a girl on 2 dates. After the movie, on their second date, he brought her to the house where we all hung out during and after high school due to lack of supervision. When they showed up, his date and I recognized each other as we had gone to the same high school and had classes together. My friend and the group that hung out at this house went to a different school. Turned out she had a crush on me in high school, but I was too interested in chasing girls out of my league to notice. I noticed her interest in me this time, and while she did leave with my friend, that was their last date. Our first date was about a week later. That was in 1999, if I remember correctly, and we are about to celebrate our 20th wedding anniversary this fall. Story 46. I had a roommate in college who was dating an abusive man who was also a drug addict. He and I never got along. He would always give her many prescription drugs, and they would fight all the time. I was so sick of it. One night, I came home and he had kicked the door in and beaten her badly, then left. She begged me not to call the police, but I didn't care. I filed a report, called her parents, and told them everything. We moved out shortly after, and she never talked to me again, but I kept in touch with her parents. They eventually broke up, and now she is in a healthy relationship with a wonderful man. Story 47. She broke girl code and told me what my friends said about me behind my back. I was hurt at first, but it set me free. Story 48. I am engaged to a former best friend's ex-girlfriend. Although we were no longer close friends by the time I connected with my now fiancé. Story 49. My best friend in college was dating a girl. I helped set them up for about a year. Shortly after I broke up with a long-term girlfriend, my friend and his girlfriend, both in our friend group, tried to set me up with one of her friends from a nearby college. Initially, I wasn't interested in dating anyone, so I didn't pursue it. I went on one date in a month because I just did not want to. Her friend was also not interested in dating anyone. Eventually, my best friend and his girlfriend broke up. She cheated on him with an ex and then started dating that ex. The friend group initially shunned her for it, following friend group code. But there was something odd about her relationship with the ex. He seemed to have a strange, unhealthy hold over her. That did not excuse what she did to my best friend, but I was worried about her. So I resumed my friendship with her but made it clear I thought what she did was wrong. By that time, I was tentatively ready to date again, as was her friend. She threw a New Year's Eve party to introduce us. That friend of hers and I have been married now for over 31 years. In summary, I stayed friends with someone who broke my buddy's heart, and she introduced me to my wife. Story 50. My best friend was cheating on his girlfriend of several years. He moved back to his mom's and distanced himself from our group because he was feeling guilty. His ex and I were already good friends, and we all started going out a lot to cheer her up. Everyone else in the group was married or in a relationship, so she and I spent a lot of time together as the only 2 single people in the group. Now we are married and bought a house together. My best friend blocked me when I told him we had started hooking up just as friends, with no relationship planned, and I haven't talked to him since. This was the best move of my life. Story 51. My brother and his girlfriend were fighting in front of me because the girlfriend suspected my brother of cheating. He got caught messaging other women, and I revealed the truth right then and there. Story 52. I had a friend who was dating a girl. I met him through competitive Super Smash Bros. Tournaments, and he was a small-time streamer. He seemed nice and charismatic, so a few of us volunteered to spend some time in his stream occasionally, helping him grow it. Eventually, we learned some strange facts about him. He likes them young, he does not believe in vaccines, he is only attracted to pregnant women, he refuses to use microwaves, and arguably the biggest one, he does not care for his girlfriend. In fact, he was actively trying to find a new one. He had 3 or 4 other girls, but they were not easy to approach. One was stubborn, one had a fiancé, and one might have been pregnant. I believe there was a 4th, but I do not recall why he was fixated on her. We told him that he was being gross and that he really needed to tell his actual girlfriend what was going on. He refused. His behavior continued for weeks. Finally, we gave him 24 hours to tell her or we would. He waited 23 hours and 58 minutes to tell her, breaking the news by saying, "I think I'm losing interest in you, and it's your fault." I personally offered to pick her up, spend time with her, and talk about the situation. The moment the guy learned that other people were talking to her, he had a public breakdown. He deleted his Discord server, demoted all of his stream's moderators, posted vague alarmist statements on Facebook claiming everyone was out to get him, acting like an absolute diva. Meanwhile, the girl and I have been together for about 3 years now. Story 53. When I started dating my husband, I did not know he had a friends with benefits situation with my best friend. I continued dating him after finding out because I knew he was my person. She thought it was a little weird but agreed that the endgame is the endgame. We remained best friends until she passed. Story 54. Telling one of my ex-close friend's girlfriend to leave him because he was abusive. Bro code does not mean anything to me if you are an asshole. Story 55. I slept with the girl my brother wanted to date. She cheated on me later. My brother started dating someone else and is now married with children. I did him a favor. Story 56. I told my now partner I liked him even though he had a girlfriend. I felt bad about it, but I have always said ovaries before brovaries, and regretted it later. It's not like I ever ended up friends with the girl, and in one situation I had to end a friendship because she was bullying me and abusive to him. If anything, I regretted not speaking up. I figured this time around, at my age, I should just go for it without kissing him or anything I considered cheating. He was flattered that I told him, but it did not initially go any further than that. I had no idea, but he was in a toxic situation where she wasn't accepting it any time he broke up with her, and there had been quite a few times. A few weeks after I told him, he decided to stand his ground and say she had to move out, and we got together a few months after that. I don't think he broke up with her for real because of me, but if I had not said anything, we might never have spoken again. He was just a friend of a friend I had crossed paths with maybe 3 times over 5 years. Story 57. My girl best friend was in a toxic situationship for years. I finally told her the truth about how he was stringing her along and dating others. I broke the stay out of it rule, but now she is thriving, and we are stronger than ever. Story 58. I broke girl code and told my best friend her boyfriend was sliding into my direct messages. I risked the friendship, got called a liar, and was blocked for a week. Then she caught him red-handed. She cried, we cried, and now we laugh about it over wine. Worth it. Story 59. Went to a party with a friend and met a girl. I did not realize that she was kind of seeing his brother, who is not a friend but not a stranger to me. She and I hit it off. 22 years and 4 children later, we are doing all right. Story 60. Not me but my grandmother. She moved to New Zealand from England with her sister back in the 1950s. She settled down, got a job, and had a boyfriend. Then she had to suddenly return to England to look after her dying father. Between her and her sister, they could only afford one passage back. My grandmother wanted to go, so she left, leaving her sister and boyfriend behind in New Zealand, knowing she would likely never return. Later, her sister and boyfriend started dating. They were together for 50 years and had 4 children. Story 61. In ninth grade, during a multi-day hotel stay field trip, a group of boys planned to spend the trip bonding. Instead, one boy was flaky and rude, trying to get attention from a girl. Some of us got fed up and realized he was cheating on his girlfriend from another school, who was also friends with the girl he was pursuing. We informed the girlfriend about what was happening. This obviously caused trouble with his girlfriend. What we did not anticipate was that his mother would also be upset on his behalf. She was angry that her son got caught cheating, not that he was cheating. It was baffling to me that they reacted so strongly when he clearly did not care about his girlfriend. I believe she broke up with him, but he kept trying to get with the other girl, though it fizzled out. The best part is that over the years, I have surrounded myself with friends who I never have to worry about breaking trust. Story 62. In 1993, my best friend was dating my wife's friend. My best friend was cheating on her. I heard my wife's friend crying to my wife about how terrible she must be because Mike did not want to see her anymore and was always making excuses for why he could not come over. I got fed up with it and said, "Mike is cheating on you." I gave her details and she ended the relationship with him. Mike married the girl he was cheating with. Years later, I married the friend of my wife who had been cheated on. Story 63. I told my friend that her boyfriend was cheating. She was mad at first but thanked me later. They broke up, and she is much happier now. Story 64. I had plans with a friend, but I ditched him to go on a last-minute date with a woman I had been trying to get a chance with for years. She and I have been together for over a decade now. As an apology, I took my friend to a fairly exclusive event as my +1 and introduced him to his now wife there. So it all worked out in the end. Story 65. My friend asked to use my place 2 days after I paid him to help me move in. He wanted to use my place to be with his mistress. At the time, all I had in my apartment was a mattress on the floor since the bed frame was arriving the following week. What was even more upsetting was that he and his wife helped me move in, and I paid him to help. Yet he planned to deceive me and his wife for his own benefit. I didn't eat for 2 days, thinking to myself, did I do something wrong for him to betray me? I ended the relationship immediately. I don't need people like that around me. Story 66. Hit it off with my best friend's girlfriend. She ended up leaving him to date me. I never cheated. I knew it wasn't right, but there was something between us I had never experienced before, and I went for it. I quickly lost my best friend, but I have now been married to her for 13 years with 2 kids, and I couldn't be happier. Hands down, the best decision I have ever made. Story 67. This question was made for me. I had a friend that I was close with for about 3 years. He was kind of difficult but funny. We smoked together often, and I wasn't the greatest person either. He wasn't very attractive, honestly pretty conventionally unattractive. He started dating a girl who was very attractive. I intentionally distanced myself from her in the friend group because he was already worried about people trying to get close to his girlfriend. They dated for about 2 years and never had a public argument, but I always got weird vibes when they were together. Whatever, none of my business. They went through a horrible breakup, and she, along with other friends, was hanging out at our house. She's good friends with my older brother. Things happened, we started talking and drinking. I found out he was a pretty awful person. We hooked up. That hookup was supposed to be a one-time thing, but we ended up catching feelings. Our friend found out and hated both of us. Anyway, we've been dating for almost 3 years now. I'm planning on marrying her when I get my first job in technology. She's the most beautiful, amazing woman I know. She's transformed me. I still feel guilty, but not really regretful. I would do it again. She's the best part of my life. Story 68. A guy in my friend group had a several years long crush on his coworker. However, his liking of her amplified into downright creepy behavior. He even removed used tissues from the woman's bathroom and sent photos to her on social media, asking, "Are these yours?" He told her and me that he was uncomfortable with me dating her. I ignored him and have been in a 7-year-long healthy relationship since. Sometimes bro code is just an excuse to protect some loser's confidence issues. Also, he went around spreading lies about me and basically kicked me out of the friend group over it. Unfortunately, two others in the group were his brothers, so they just took his side despite his creepy behavior. Is it bro code to talk badly about your close friend? Whatever. Story 69. Brother 1 was crushing hard on this girl, but was too nervous to make a move. Brother 2 made the move. They have been married for 6 years. Story 70. A former best friend had a girlfriend and went to hook up with another girl. I tried my best to talk him out of it, but he still went through with it. A group of us talked with the girlfriend's friend and told her. His girlfriend broke up with him and keyed his car. He kept spiraling and did not want to get involved. I cut contact with him after he was thrown out of multiple parties for fighting people, taking advantage of intoxicated women, and using pills. Story 71. I told my best friend's brother that I had feelings for him, which was totally against unspoken rules among friends. We have been together ever since, and my friend officiated our wedding. Story 72. I had two close friends. One was in a committed relationship and engaged. The other friend bragged about sleeping with friend one's fiancé and trusted me not to tell. I told him as soon as possible because it was the right thing to do. It cost me a friend because he was angry, but it was worth it to the poor guy who was stuck with a bad fiancé and a friend betraying him. Story 73. I really don't want to say it was for the best, but it turned out well for me. I had a difficult girlfriend back in the day. The kind everyone knows. Started nicely, but she made me feel worse and worse, until she cheated on me with a friend of 15 years. He was the one breaking the bro code in that moment. Looking back, I might have forgiven her cheating on me, but cheating on me with a friend of mine is what woke me up. I instantly broke up with her, and my life got much better after that. I've recently seen him on the street, and he doesn't look healthy. I do. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.